Hi guys, and welcome back. I want to pick up kind of where we left off last time. We were discussing last time around, I discussed the chest and the sensors that I got installed and the little technical little glitches that I did, and of course my typical references to other videos that give good demonstrations. And I'll do that again this time and keep kind of with my standard. So this is kind of where we're at right now. This video is going to jump around a little bit. It's going to cover some different areas quickly. Again, I'm not going to go into details about how I bolted everything together. I'm going to reference those videos for you. So this time around, we're basically going to look at the head, the jaw, the eyes, and then we'll flip Ralph around and we'll look at his back. Just a couple quick little items on his back. So again, you can see we're going to jump around a little bit. With that said, let's kind of just jump into it. I always like to start off here at the home page and give a good reference to Gail and his work on the original project. So with all that said, let's take a quick jump in here and let's take a look at the back. Now I'm not going to point out a whole lot here about the back other than the difficulty, the one real problem I had. Now if you follow Civray's back here, he goes into quite a bit of detail on how he did it, how he got everything started, how he built it, and the problems that he had. So again, I'm not going to duplicate his work. He's got great cameras. Take a look at it. But what I want to point out is the area that I had difficulty with. Now, he points out that he had problems with fitting the parts together and getting the screws to align and all that. I actually didn't have any of that problems. I printed straight off the home page, off the downloads, and everything fit together well. Holes aligned. I had the same two pieces that didn't quite match up correctly like his. You'll see that in the video. Now, I assembled mine in a different order than the way Steve did his. So that's why I wanted to point this area out. I put the neck together first. So you can see I've got all the servos, had all the servos mounted and everything. Well, that turned out to be a problem. I ended up lifting this servo back out of its mount. And the reason I had to do that was to put the standoff for the back. These two holes have to be accessible. Well, with that servo properly mounted and everything aligned, they get covered up. So I had to take mine apart again. I don't know what order you're going to build yours in, but I thought I'd point that out so that you could adjust accordingly or know that problem's coming up. I was just lucky enough to be able to get the fourth screw out of that, to get that screwdriver in there at just the right angle to back that screw out. So take that into consideration. So here it is. You can see before I disassembled it with that servo in, I could not get into that hole to put the standoff in. And here you can see the standoff plate. It's notched and ready to, and fits in there nicely, but you have to put it in before you twist that servo holster around. Once I did that, so you can see everything worked fine. That servo holster will pivot and do everything it's supposed to do. So put it back in, reassemble everything like that, put your servo back in. Everything else about the back is standard, went smooth, mostly a printing process. So let's go ahead, close up on the back, finish that all out. And I used a 7-inch screen, touchscreen. Well, the standard frame for the touchpad that was the original part for the robot is too big. So I went to Steve, and he was kind enough to give me a STL file of the back piece that he designed and built. So I'll let him go into all the details about how all that's done and why he did it and all that. But you can see here, I'll turn him around real quick. Speed up that video a little bit so you can maybe see the back. There it is. So that's the little touch screen that I used. I used the same screen. Since designing this and making it all fit, it went in fine, works like a champ. The only problem that I faced, and you'll see it in the wiring diagrams when I do the video on it, is that when I went to put that touchscreen down in, I was hitting on some of the wiring off of the Nervo boards. So that was a problem for me. So I built a standoff adapter for that. I'm not going to show it. It's out being printed right now, as a matter of fact. So I don't have anything to show on that. But I did have to build a little stand up on it. You'll see it in my finished video. I'll be sure to point that out. So the 7-inch touchscreen went smooth. It was a simple download, simple print. I did have to angle it and stand it up, and I had to use a lot of support because I had to stand it on edge, and I had to twist it to make it fit on my Ender 3 printer. It's the only way it would fit. And so standing it on edge, all that hole in the center that will be filled by the touchscreen had to be supported so I could print the top. So there was a little bit of waste in it, having to do it that way. But it worked, got the job done, and I'm happy. Let's drop that dude out of the way. And again, these videos, I'm going to put the links into the introduction box down below. Now, when I built the eyes, I went to Swan Robotics, and Swan Robotics has a nice sequence of events on how he put it together, and helped me out a lot because I really didn't see anything else that put it together well for me. You have a couple of choices on the eyes. I built the original eyes, and that means I don't have the blinking eyelids. I wish I had the blinking eyelids. I would have liked that. But I'll tell you the truth, I got tired of trying to find all the pieces. I read all the comments about, hey, has anybody got any instructions or a help video to put it all together? So I just went back to the standard eyes and went forward with it. Maybe another day I'll go back and rebuild the eyes. But for now, I just used the standard original eye prints. So let's take a look at some of what I did there. Okay, now In the video, when it was time to put the eyepieces all together, you'll see him use a hot glue gun and put it all together. And obviously it works. I elected to use super glue when I put mine together. And I noticed on the back of the eyeball that there were two little notches where you might be able to put a screw in. Super skinny screw. I'm not going to bother to try to find that any kind of a screw that would fit it. But I found out that I could use a finishing nail, and the tip of that finishing nail would go into that little indentation for the start of a hole for a screw, and I could use those for alignment pins. However, to do that, this back plate here is solid, so I had to drill a hole through. No big deal, just drill a nice little hole through it, and then when you assemble this piece and when you get ready to put the eyeball on the front of it, put those two nails through, and then you can align those two notches up. Put super glue on the eyeball or rim, align those two notches, push it down in place. These screws came back out when I was done. Okay, they don't have to stay. The super glue will hold the eye to the assembly. So that's what I wanted to show you here. Then here I wanted to show you that I did use the recommendation of putting the screws through and putting a second nut on there to adjust those eyes and to kind of hold everything under tension so that the screws don't back out. Well, threading into plastic, the screws were real loose, and I wasn't going to trust that nut was going to hold. So once I put everything in place, I got out my super glue gun, and as you can see here, I put a dab of super glue on everything there. That held the nut, the screw, the nut, and the base all as one piece. Just eliminated the problem. Then another thing I discovered was that when I put the camera in, I routed the cable as described in the tutorial on Gail's tutorial. I routed that cable and brought it around. Well, that cable wants to kind of hang and get in the way, so I just bent it back over and put a dab of super glue to hold that cable so that it's always kind of pointing out to one side and is very predictable. So no problem there. I didn't put the second camera in. You really don't need a second camera unless you're going to do some really special, very advanced things. I'm going to be happy to have the eyeball that, for face detection and so forth. So I just put one camera in. The only thing I really deviated from the standard description was the servo arm. This is kind of the arm they tell you to use. Well, it's very short, full of a lot of little holes, and finding a screw that's going to go through that little hole and then go into this hole up here that's already bigger than these holes was annoying. So I took this piece, I guess you'd call that maybe a T, I don't know what you want to call it. But I took it and I just took my dikes and cut the back half off. And that gave me the same effect as this, but it was larger with larger holes in it, which now allowed me to drop a screw down through and make the assembly much easier. So putting the eyes together, not a lot of problems. Again, straightforward printing. Everything worked. Nothing, no problem with the prints. Everything was great. Let me close that bad boy up. The jaw. Again, here's a nice how-to video. He goes through and he shows you everything there is to see. Oops. Sorry guys, didn't mean to interrupt it so much. But he goes through and he tells you everything about putting it all together, step by step, and how he did it. Very nice video. Now, my supporting pictures here. What I did and where I found my difficulties. All right. Basically, I have just two still pictures here. When I put it together, the side arms of the jaw wouldn't stay on. They kept springing out and wanting to come off, springing out, wanting to come off, and annoying. So I said, well, I can fix that problem. And I built a little spacer and a top cap. And then I drilled that top cap. And I put the spacer over the shaft. I put the top cap over and a little sheet metal screw. Arms didn't pop off anymore. Well, you don't need to do all that. Okay. Nice idea. If you want to do it, you can make sure that jaw doesn't move, but not necessary. Turns out I had assembled this jaw wrong. And it's crystal clear. It's in the tutorial on Gail's page, how to do it. I just missed it. I put it together backwards. In the tutorial, he says make sure that this flat piece right here, see it there? This flat piece has got to be on the inside. You can see that the other side has got these ridges and raised areas on it. Okay, well, if you put it together backwards like this, those arms spring out. That was my problem. So I stopped and I took the 4 screws out and I rearranged these and I put it so that those flat pieces were on the inside, screwed it all back together and stuck it in place. Voila. Man, it just sat right in place. Not a problem. Then it seemed like there was the tension to push them in instead of springing them out. So that's something you want to watch for. Now, what I found really difficult was getting the jaw to go up and down, based on the movement of the servo. Now, I played around and I did an experiment that I want to share with you that you don't need to do, but it helped me determine my problem. So I wanted to show it to you. And I took this video, and I took this picture to illustrate that. The crossbar here, you see the word, it's got the word bottom printed on it. Well, this is the top. So this word is supposed to be on this side. That's the bottom. Okay. Now, originally I did that. I had that piece flipped over like it was supposed to. And when you screw that worm gear down into that and assemble it, the jaw would not move up and down. It was always in one extreme or the other. It just would not give me that 45-degree each direction movement that I needed. So I toyed with it and I toyed with it. Pardon me. If you put this piece in with the bottom down like it's supposed to, and you can't get that jaw movement to work, then what you need to do is you need to rotate where this gear goes into. So what I did was I backed this out and I rotated my bar 90 degrees so that this part of the gear went in this hole, and then screwed it back down. When I put it together like that, then I got the proper movement. So I'm just pointing this out to let you know this is a place to look for the problem. If you put this part in right and you can't get the jaw to move, you may have to rotate on this worm gear to get the proper movement. So that said, everything worked great. Once I got this properly inserted with the piece properly in place, these are not needed, straight out of the box type thing, everything worked. So that's what I did on the jaw. That's where I found my problem. So I hope this prevents you from having that problem. Gives you an insight on how to get that jaw movement right. Now, I did the head, and when I looked, this seems to be a different picture, like he's just recently updated this page. I don't recall this picture here being on the site when I started the head, but it's nice that it's there. So I followed this tutorial, and it went well. Again, this is mostly an exercise in printing, and of course getting the right size screws. What I found though was that when I put it all together, I got big gaps in the head. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not looking for that human appeal where it's a nice smooth head. I've seen some of the guys, they do that fill and everything, cover all the screws. The heads look beautiful, but that's not my thing. I want mine to be easily distinguished as a machine, as a robot. So I'm going to leave my head like it is. But just so you know, you may end up seeing gaps like this in your head from the way things are printed straight out of the box. That's about it for the head, guys. I'm not gonna waste a lot of time telling you. The rest of it, was again just getting all the bolts together. It's just a little jigsaw puzzle. Just put it all together and set it on. Put your speakers in place as you're working. I'll go into a little bit more on the speakers and stuff when I get into the wiring. That'll probably be my next video. Come on, mouse. That really pretty much covers everything I had to say on this video, guys. So, again, drop down into my comment section, and I'll put a link to all these videos, get it all in there for you so you can see it. Hope everybody enjoys it. I've enjoyed the robot, the process of building it. I'm particularly having fun with the wiring. Okay, I'll cover that next. Y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.